Hello and welcome to another episode of the Top Flight Show. I'm Rich Morrell, and joining me on the sofas this evening, the race director, Mr. Chrissy P, is back in town. Chris, pleasure to have you.
Yep, thank you very much.
We've got our special guest presenter for this evening as well, Allan.
How we doing, boys? How we doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Chris, you well?
Yeah, good. Ticking over training wise, so it's just a slow build of momentum. I'm trying to do like one slightly harder thing a week rather than falling back into like a structure of doing two things a bit harder and then picking up a niggle after like 5 or 6 weeks. So it'll take a bit longer to get there, but I'm hoping that like consistency wins out.
What are you wanting to do like within the sport now? Obviously, I'm not saying like you passed your best, but I think in terms of certain performance,
Just said it, didn't he? You basically just said it. How do you say you passed your best without saying
No,
you passed your
I'm
best?
curious as to what are the goals in the sport now, because obviously you've been at such a high level in the past, and you know I know you're still invested and you've still got goals that you want to achieve in the sport. So what are they? Briefly.
It is difficult because after spending so many years at like 1500 meters, I wanted to go to 5K for a few years and then go up and do like the half marathon and the marathon properly. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
That was the plan, and I thought I would go that pretty soon after 30, but every year it was like one more year at the 1500 because I just felt I could still get a PB. And then 2019 was my last track race. And 2020 was, well, yeah, because 2020 was COVID.
Yeah.
So basically like 5 years has disappeared for me where and I'm now 40 and I just didn't really get a chance to make that transition that I wanted to. So I basically did a 5K in 2020 and ran 13:54 in Armagh and a 29:30 10K. And then actually during COVID, I ran a 65 half marathon on Christmas Day out in Dubai.
Yeah.
When the lockdown was on, and I wasn't actually training for that. It was just the race was on, school was closed. I was going to be off when I came back, so I was like, I may as well race and see how I do. So after that, I was like, I actually felt pretty good doing that. I'd been out for 3 weeks, right? So although it was really hot out there, I was definitely acclimatized, and I was thinking, could I do that back to back? I don't know if I could do 105 back to back, but I was like, that actually felt pretty good. I definitely was at that point harboring ambitions to do it. But then, yeah, after that, I just had like a catalogue of injuries and illnesses. And then, yeah, I guess work and stuff gets in the way a little bit of doing these things. So, yeah, the longer time's gone on, the harder it is to have like a solid target. But if I can get a spell of consistent training, I do get fit fairly quick. I raced you not that long ago at Elsick Road Relays.
Oh,
like
yeah,
at
of
Easter.
course, yeah.
I'm semi-retired, so I just come out of the woodwork every now and again.
Head go.
I mean, he absolutely put us away, but it wasn't by like an embarrassing distance given how long I've been out.
That race was great, always is, but they changed the course, didn't they? They had to, which is a shame. Now, obviously they had to, but because I really wanted to go for like the fastest.
The course record.
Yeah, I wanted to go for the course record, but it just...
Who has the course record?
I believe it was me and then Phil Hurst. I slid the me in there.
And then someone else, and not you.
Yeah.
So I did have it.
Right. Chris doesn't have the record for the old course, but
Can we just check that the turn point was in the right place? Because, you know, it wasn't only a few seconds in it.
yeah.
But I think this year was 30 seconds. From what I'd worked out, we were about 30 to 50 seconds faster.
Yeah.
The course got shortened a little bit.
Right.
But if it was the right distance, I was on for about 10 seconds off the course record. Just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
For next
Which
year-
course record? the official one or Chris's course record?
When I did
The
it,
official one.
when I did it, the turn point was way out the park on the other side, and every year the turn points kept getting shorter and shorter, and the times have got faster.
Yeah. He's not better about that one.
The shoes have got more and more carbon.
Yeah, that'll be coming next. So you mentioned the marathon was was on your radar. So this episode, what we're going to do is just have a general chat because we are coming into the road running season. I know it's still track and we've got the world champs to look forward to and everything like that. With the world champs being a little bit later on in the year, in September, or was that September, October time? It's the start of the road season as well. In the build up to, that little small transition period then that gets thick into the cross, but there's still a lot of road races on the go as well. So, there's going to be some big marathons on the horizon. Cam, any thoughts on the marathon for you yourself going forward in your career? Do you think it's something that you would, I'll see myself getting up to competing in a marathon, or is it like it's something that I would do when I'm done with the sport?
It's something that I know I'm built for. Like as an athlete, it's what I think I will go into as I get older. However, I'm really not looking forward to that, and I'm just going to enjoy the shorter distances for the time being.
Yeah. It's funny how you say that, like, you know, there's reservations about you wanting to progress up that distance, because I certainly wouldn't want to be putting the big blocks of training away. It's just something that I, as an athlete, I wouldn't have enjoyed doing. But a lot of people gravitate towards the marathon, even like, your average man or woman on the street that gets involved in the sport. It's like, oh, I want to do a marathon. And I know it's to say, obviously, I've done a marathon, but what do you think it is about the marathon and the distance that makes it such a special event that people want to go out and want to compete and want to tick it off?
I think it's firstly, it's an event that you just can't blag, can you? You can't just go out and blag a marathon. You have to have trained, otherwise you're going to severely suffer. And because it's, anybody can get themselves over the line in a 5K. And then probably a 10K and probably the half marathon, because you can walk, jog and get a half marathon done in, even if it took you 5 hours. But that for a marathon is different. It is so far, and it's easy to like underestimate it. So I think it's actually important from everybody who I've spoke to, who obviously I haven't done one myself yet, but anybody who's been involved at a high level, either coaching or athlete wise, I think it is important that you do have that fear or that respect of the distance. If you don't have that, the marathon is going to get you, because at some point in that race, they'll say it's a race of 2 halves, 20 mile and 6 mile.
Yeah.
And if you do not respect that, it's going to come back to bite you, because there's, you could talk about in terms of the science, the different energy systems and, things that the different way your body works after running for about an hour and a half or an hour and 40 of continued endurance, and whether it starts burning fat and carbohydrates. So there's so many factors that are in play for the marathon that aren't for the half marathon and lower. And it's just a different beast. And you've seen over the years, lots of very, very good runners have give it a go and it not work, who you would think that they were a shoo-in to be like amazing at a marathon. And you basically can't take it for granted that it's going to work. And I think that's why, like, similar to what you've said there, like, I think a lot of track runners, if you're just talking to friends who have got into running, or they've maybe raised some money for charity and they've gone in and they've done a marathon, then they'll say to you, "Oh, you haven't done a marathon yet?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "But you've been running for like nearly 30 years. Like, how come you've never? How much training do you need to do before you feel like you're ready to do a marathon?" Yeah. Whereas we're coming at it from a different mentality, where you want to actually you want to have a competitive effort and you want to do the best or the fastest marathon that you can. Yeah. And the mental commitment to that you've got. I remember Scott Overall said to me before he went into a discussion, I think it might have been Allan Story coaching him at the time, but he basically said he came out of the room and he was a marathon runner after he'd had that discussion. It was like nothing else mattered. He could maybe race himself fit over other distances, but none of them things mattered anymore. It was only the marathon that mattered. Whereas if you're a shorter distance runner, you can dabble in quite a lot of things. You can do cross country in the winter and actually focus on it for a period of time. You can focus on some of the shorter runs. Yeah. You can get on the track. There's quite a lot more variety that you can keep having these various peaks for. Whereas marathon, it's very much a massive block and a singular focus once or twice a year. So it's a total different, more reserved long-term approach that maybe isn't as appealing.
I know you mentioned how you think that you'll probably end up there and you think you're suited to it. What is it about sort of you as an athlete then that makes you think this is why I would probably do all right at a marathon? Is it like the way that you run that you can get in the rhythm and just click miles off quite easily? Is there something about like that you've seen in yourself, or is it the mental side of things that you know I can grit this out, I can grit that 26 miles out? What is it about you as an athlete that you think you'll be a good marathon runner?
I think a bit of both. I love the challenge, to be fair, like
Yeah.
like a proper endurance challenge. I've done some outside of running as well, not as well as inside of running, but things I like to do outside of running. So me and my mate Ethan, throwback name Ethan McGlenn, used to be a Gateshead Harrier.
I reckon that. I was going to say, I reckon that was a rare.
Former mini marathon champion. Great runner, great friend as well. We did a walk 3 days from one side of the country to the other.
All right. Well,
And that was covering, well, we covered a marathon a day,
Yeah.
walking, doing it.
yeah.
So technically I have done a marathon,
Yeah.
just a very slow one.
Yeah.
But I love an endurance event like that.
Yeah.
But just currently, because I want to focus on trying to compete at the top end of the sport, rather than just trying to tick off challenges,
Yeah.
that's why I wouldn't touch on the marathon now, because I just don't think I'm in the position where I'm best suited to it now. But I know in maybe 5-10 years' time, that's where I'll be at. The training's just so much more different, and I don't know currently if I could work that around my work schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it does take a lot of commitment. I've noticed an athlete that we've spoke about in the past on the podcast, a High Rocks athlete, Jake Dearden. He's just recently taken on a challenge of running a 2:19 marathon in Berlin. He's got a PB. I'm sure it's sub 2:30. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but he's gone sub 2 hours 30 for a marathon before. And he's competing at the top end of the High Rocks game. And he's took on a project to run a sub 2:20 marathon in Berlin. So I'll be watching his progress on his YouTube channel with a lot of interest, see how he gets on with that. And his training's, he's approaching it like really differently, and the way that he's broke his training down into using, like we mentioned before, like he's getting his cardio from rowing and the ski erg quite a lot as well as building the mileage in. And eventually we'll be on bigger miles, but to start with, so that his body can adjust, he's doing a lot of like different forms of cardio biking as well. So interesting to see how he gets on with that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting because obviously we discussed Alex Yee, and he can do the aerobic wasn't an issue. It was, can you do 26 miles of pounding at that pace running wise? Obviously he did have a fantastic debut, but that was always going to be a factor there. I think it doesn't matter who you are. To do a marathon, you have to be doing a considerable amount of mileage. It's the leg strength that is massively underappreciated. That like fatigue, continuing to run for that period of time.
Yeah.
And actually, I think there's a couple of ways. There's two main ways you can approach a marathon if you've come from like a shorter distance background. One, you can do what works for everybody, which is run more miles. So low intensity, lots of mileage, threshold work, tempo work, but ultimately build up to the highest volume that you can take without getting injured, get yourself incredibly aerobically strong, and then your pace that you can run for a marathon will gradually get down because you'll be, you build this massive base and then you can get faster. The other way to go is if you've come from a background where you've got a lot more, you're carrying a lot more speed. So you've come from a 1500 or a 5K background, you can do a lot more steady run pace, get to a lower mileage, maybe 60 to 70% of that mileage that somebody doing a huge mileage would do. But you can already run at the marathon pace, but you can't run for a marathon. And that's just over time, you can hold that pace for further and further. So basically, if, for example, if you wanted to run a 2:10 marathon, which is 5 minute miling, we could run 5 minute miling now. I could definitely run it for 3 or 4 mile, right? But so I could focus on get myself to 70 mile a week, but just keep chipping away distance wise at how far I can run 5 minute miling, and then until eventually you could do that for a marathon.
Yeah.
Or you can be somebody who runs 7 minute miling and gets up to 120, 130 mile a week, and your debut marathon's at 225, and then you keep getting stronger and stronger, and your pace that you can do that huge volume, that gets better. So there's there's those two. 99% of people, the big mileage, big volume is going to work, and a smaller percentage, the former will work. But some of the Kenyans train like that as well. With Canova, he has some of them doing that. He'll basically get them to run at marathon pace until they drop 16, 17 mile, and then he'll get them to go back and do that until they can eventually just. That's why you used to see a lot of the African athletes just go out at world record pace and then just blow up at various points, but then 3 or 4 races down the line, they just stick it out for the world record.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see actually getting a marathoner on the Top Flight show and seeing how they approached it and their experiences of running a marathon, because it's something, we're sat in a room talking about, but none of us have ever done it yet. So I think it'd be intriguing to see if we can maybe get a marathoner on as a guest and get their insight into it. I mean, it wouldn't be the Top Flight show without mentioning a Top Flight race. What do you think? Could we ever see a Top Flight marathon? Do you think there'd be appetite for it in the series? I know we've spoke off air about it, and we had a chat about it as well. Cameron, you had some thoughts about different types of races and things like that. I've got my thoughts on it, but I'll throw it over to you guys.
I think a marathon would be very unlikely for us to do, basically on the basis of, if you want to do a marathon, you immediately think of the mega marathons.
Yeah.
So that's what you want to do. So it would be very difficult for us to replicate that. However, you could have, the only way that I could conceive like a Top Flight marathon would be if it was along the lines of the Kipchoge breaking 2 efforts. If you were to put on some sort of, if let's say the Olympics necessitated a British trials and they couldn't use the London Marathon and they needed to find a place for a trial race, could we facilitate that and put that on like they did in COVID? Or, is somebody going to try and break a 2-hour marathon and they need somebody to put it on? And if there was something around that, that's the only way where I think you could really do it and it still fit within Top Flight.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you would want that competitive effort. No disrespect to ourselves, but if you're going to do a marathon, if you're in the autumn, you're going to want to go to Berlin, or you're going to want to go to Chicago, and you want these courses that are flat, fast, roaring crowds
as well.
Roaring crowds the whole way around. That whole experience of these mega events.
I also don't think it would work for the series. It's the type of event where you only race a marathon once or twice a year, and you need so much time afterwards to recover from it. So you wouldn't be able to do the marathon and then other events in the series properly if you really wanted to focus on the series.
Yeah.
And you would just have different athletes doing the marathon to what would do all the other distances in the series.
Yeah. I agree. I echo, exactly what both of you have said. I'm on the same page with it 100%. I think, the only way I could see, Top Flight venturing into that is if it was like a standalone event and it became, like you say, maybe, starts off being paired up with a potentially like a British trials or a project of some sort, and then it grew from there. But I think just to come straight at it, let's sling a marathon in January down the quayside in there as a Top Flight, it isn't going to work because, like we said, maybe getting the quality and the volume of spectators and logistically putting that on, it doesn't seem.
I guess with the marathon, you talk about a British champs marathon, but you don't. Correct me if I'm wrong here, because I don't know enough about the marathon. But you don't really have a English nationals marathon or a Scottish nationals marathon. And maybe if you wanted to delve into smaller championship racing, that could be something that Top Flight could dive into.
I just think, like you've touched on there, you have so few competitive outings over the marathon that it would be incredibly difficult to recruit the field for it to be strong enough. I think we're probably, to be realistic, we're also having that for the half marathons as well. We wanted within the series to have a mix of 5K, 10K half marathon, because it then you've got this series where you've got different strengths of athletes. We're more 5K focused through the summer. We've got the spring and autumn marathon in there with Cheshire and with Surrey, but they are definitely harder to recruit for because there's around that time of year, there's so many options of big established events. So like the lads I'm training with are going out to Copenhagen, for example, in October or the end of September. So it's hard when people have so few opportunities they only race a few times at that distance, so it's hard for them to choose you. But I think like the half marathon, that's more likely that maybe we could be, the European Road Running Trials or the World Road Running Trials, something where you need that British only race to get the first 3 past the post. That fits with the Top Flight project, But I guess there's also an argument of, do we avoid those and do we go for other distances?
Well, I was just about to say, I do think that there are other distances other than 5K, 10K, half marathon that you could incorporate into the Top Flight. Because take something like a 5-mile race. I did one in Battersea before I did the 10K.
Yeah, you did.
It's an event that, for me as an athlete, I enjoy doing because it takes the pressure off, because people care a lot less about like the time you run. If you run a 10K, everybody knows what a really good 10K time is and what to expect. They'll guess what an athlete's going to do. You do a 5-mile race and it takes that pressure away a little bit, but also allows people to dabble in distances where if you, let's say, look at like Parr 10 rankings, etc., you can get a ranking for a 5-mile, but there's not enough of them to kind of have a serious list of athletes.
Yeah.
So some athletes like to do that. I like to do it because then you've got a top 10 UK ranking.
Yeah.
Because it's not ran as much. And if you added another event in there where athletes could do that distance, then it might interest athletes and others as well, like a 10-mile or whatever's out there, I guess.
Watch this space. I can see the cogs turning in.
Exactly. Exactly. Everybody PBs in the Top Flight. So if you put a race where nobody's got a PB, then
you get a PB.
Absolutely, 100%.
Then I can get the cap.
Yeah. So I think maybe down the line we'll look at getting a marathoner on as a guest, and get a little bit more insight into that and builds on this episode. And definitely some food for thought there with the suggestions of the 5-mile. Watch this, 2026 will be a 5-mile fixture in there. We'll call it the Cameron Allan fixture as well. Yeah, I love it there. Tip of the hat for the idea. But we'll wrap things up there, boys. It's been an absolute pleasure having you both in there. Some good talking points there. And if you guys enjoyed the episode at home, please give us a like, a share, and a subscribe on our RunThrough YouTube channel. It's been an absolute pleasure, and it's been a pleasure with you too this evening. So cheers, boys.
Cheers.